Hey, what's up, everybody? I wanted to hop on here real quick and give you guys an inside look at Mercury and chat about the lyric content, what inspired the song, the themes that I was getting into. At some point too, I'd love to do like a production deep dive. That'd be really fun. I was really excited about how the song turned out lyrically, and I think there's a lot at face value you can pull from the song, but there might also be some connections I can make that you guys might find interesting. There's definitely a few kind of broad sources of inspiration behind this. The song is definitely this dialogue between a father and a son, which in part was inspired by conversations I've had with my dad. Not really like a specific conversation, but the last few years have been so fascinating with our relationship. My dad, a few years back, I'll be short, but he had this crazy health journey. He had this big heart attack, and he was gone. The ER folks were working on him for like 30 minutes. They were about to call it, and they brought him back. And every step of his recovery was just totally astonishing. He woke up from his coma way faster than they anticipated. Like, the neurologist was blown away, no lasting neurological damage or anything. The cardiologist was blown away. It just was this amazing thing. Like, the ER doctor, his name was Dr. Hershey. He runs up when he finds out my dad's awake. He's like taking pictures with him. And he's like, "You got to come down when you're ready to get out of here. You got to come down to the ER. I want you to say hey to my team and everything." He's like, "We're hanging this picture up on the wall. We don't get stories like this often. We all saw you, man. You were in rough shape." It just was this amazing thing. And as a situation like that would, it put eternity on my dad's mind a lot more coming out of that, and just reprioritized things for him. And, you start to just learn what's really important in life and that kind of stuff. So there was definitely a lot of partial inspiration from some of that. Even me becoming a parent myself in the last few years, at least at the time of this video, I've got, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, 2 girls. I know the song is kind of a father-son thing, but hey, there's plenty of crossover still and things that I'd like to instill in my girls and everything. And also things like in my own personal life that I've learned just from, experiencing more of life and getting older and that kind of thing. I would say the last broad piece of inspiration is I've had this growing fascination with more ancient ways of thinking and art, history and older art and stories and things like that. I think that the pre-scientific mind, I love the way that they viewed the world and how they interpreted things is really fascinating. They would embed so much deep and meaningful things within their stories and within artwork and such. So I love all that, and a lot of all of this was kind of spilling into the writing of this song. Yeah, and to set the stage, I mean, I probably won't go line by line to everything, but I'll probably hit on the gist of each section, let's say. But it opens up with this scene of a son that's recounting this conversation that he's had with his father, and the father is issuing these warnings. I almost titled the track "Admonition," as it really is these pieces of wisdom and warnings and concerns from the father, who is, maybe he's seeing his son and the way he's acting, maybe these patterns of behavior, he's being untruthful or ill-managing his close relationships, or manipulating his environment to his advantage or whatever. And there's that concern of, "Look, son, like I know what you're trying to get away with here. I see your sleight of hand. I see your shifting shadow. And trust me, these ways, they lead to death. I've been there. I get it." All that kind of stuff. So there's this acknowledgement, but it's followed immediately by these lines that I can't fight your own battles for you. I can't walk this path for you. Like, the hero's journey holds its own reward. I can't rob you of the steps you need to take in order to yield, the benefit of walking through this. I can't be, your inner voice of conscience guiding you along the way, let's say, which I think is important to acknowledge as a parent, and also just in our own life, of the things that we need to journey and trek through ourselves, let's say. The next really big focus of the track is this issue of courage. I think that the antidote to fear is courage. There's this amazing notion in therapeutic practice where if a therapist is working with somebody that is chronically anxious, let's say, the goal for them is to not decrease their anxiety, but rather to incrementally increase their bravery. And I just thought to myself, wow, what if I'm praying the wrong prayer? What if, in light of fears and doubts and hardships and troubling circumstances, what if I am not to pray for God to remove these, but rather pray for strength and courage to rise to the occasion? God, don't remove these hardships and fears that I'm encountering, but rather use them to strengthen me and give me spiritual maturation, that I may be further transformed to be like you. And I think that that's a really difficult prayer to pray, to say the least, but one that I think we should pray more often. So yes, you have this scene, son, I see what you're doing, and you shouldn't be doing this. I can't do this for you. I can't fight your battles, but I will encourage you to strengthen yourself and confront these things and ask for courage. Now the last line of that verse, boy, what you're really wanting is honesty, which I'll hit on that in a second, because truthfulness and honesty to me that's the main subject of this whole song. That's the center point. An iron hand with your sword in its sheath. And I may, admittingly, I may have tried to pack too many analogies in a short phrase like that. But the iron hand is something obviously like strength and power. The sword is like power and strength, but the sheathed sword is like restrained strength. So take courage and strengthen yourself, bolster yourself up. But know how to constrain that strength in a noble manner, not to be tyrannical or overpower anybody, but rather to have as a part of yourself, so that you may confront and appropriately walk through whatever you're facing. It's something like that. And there's some other, there's a Napoleon quote. This is kind of a different spin, but there's a Napoleon quote that's something like, you should rule with an iron hand wrapped in a velvet glove, which is kind of that velvet hammer type of thing where, you have words that cut to the core, that pack a punch like the hammer, but is dressed in silk that's, more, say, softly delivered, like the velvet, which I thought that was just a, kind of a cool thing. So I kind of confusingly smashed those ideas together. But now we come to the crux of everything, which is truthfulness, to be honesty. To be honest, that's what the Father is issuing to his Son, to be forthright and truthful about things, which is, to me, where everything about the song starts to point to Jesus. Jesus is the truth. And you might ask, if the Father is charging his Son to take courage, what is the most courageous act you can do? And I think it's telling the truth and embodying the truth to the best ability that you could manage. That's the most, let's say, heroic act, in a sense, or at least being truthful will always set you on the right path forward, set you on the path on the hero's journey, let's say. And Jesus is the pinnacle of this, of who we're called to emulate and model after, and work to be more and more like on a daily basis. So that call to truth, that's everything. And now we can kind of fall back on the question, what is Mercury? What do I mean by this? Mercury, it's a fascinating thing. Obviously, it's a planet, which is not really what I'm getting at. There's also, like, what is it, the Roman god of finance or something like that. That's also not what I'm getting at. I find the historical associations of Mercury kind of fascinating. Different, like, associations of materials with different things, which we're not, I don't know, we don't do that a whole lot in the modern world. Like, obviously, gold and silver, they have their monetary values and such, but you can even look in the scriptures, like the statue of Nebuchadnezzar, where, you know, the head of the statue is gold, and it kind of works its way down, you know, silver, bronze, and iron, or whatever, and all the way down this material hierarchy to, like, the dirt and the clay. So I love all that stuff. I think it's really fascinating. So there's, in the medieval times, I could be getting this wrong, but I think it's like in alchemy, they had these, like, bodily associations with different materials. So, like, gold would be associated with the heart, silver associated with the mind, and mercury associated with the lungs, the breath. So I was kind of running away with that idea in that line of the Father saying something like, son, I raised you to be this autonomous individual with your own breath and being, your own heart and mind, and your own dreams and aspirations, let's say. I just thought that was a beautiful thing. That was kind of the initial spark behind that line. But Mercury, I kind of sat with it a little longer, and at the time I was hearing this, was kind of coming across this study of this old image called prima materia, and you might look at this image and be like, whoa, dude, this is getting a little odd. But it's a kind of a fascinating image, and there's a lot kind of packed into it. At the top of the image, you'll see this thing, which is called a rebus, which is like a human, but with a male and female face, which is definitely a strange thing, but it represents this, like, the positive aspects of masculinity and femininity into one. So the whole, like, I think the whole image of prima materia is really something like this ideal person, like this ideal, like, personality that's fully integrated and fully actualized, let's say. So this rebus, so, like, both positive aspects of masculinity and femininity, they're sitting on top of a dragon. Talking about dragons, y'all. So obviously dragons are ubiquitous among all cultures around the whole world, throughout history, which is a strange and kind of mysterious thing. But I like the interpretation of the dragon that represents something like a super predator, like this. It's this weird hybrid of different predators that we've had to encounter throughout human history. It also represents the unknown and represents chaos itself, let's say. And this is, like, straight pulled from, like, Maps of Meaning, Jordan Peterson kind of stuff, where he will describe the neurocircuitry of when a person encounters the unknown, or is in unexplored territory, or a situation confronts them unexpectedly, and they are faced with the unknown. The circuits that are responding to that situation are the same circuits that are responding to a predator if you encounter a predator, which I'm thankful to be blanketed by modern society and not often encounter a predator like a bear or something. I digress. So that's a fascinating thing, the unknown and the dragon. And the dragon, back to this image, it's sitting on top of a ball, which is called round chaos. And this ball is made of mercury. And inside the ball is something like raw potential. And so I'm, piecing all this together. And so to me, this image is saying something like, to fully actualize yourself, to grow and reach the ideal that you should strive for, you need to encounter the unknown. It's only by encountering the unknown and facing the dragon and conquering the dragon that you unlock the potential that's embedded within you. So that's an inspiring thing about that. And I thought, well, that's God's call for us. He calls us to adventure and to face the unknown and grow and be transformed and become more and more like Jesus. So to me, you are Mercury is something like God seeing who we can become, who he created us to be, the potential that lies within us. And you need to embody the truth, tell the truth, emulate Jesus, and become more like him every day to the best ability you can possibly manage. That's God's call. So yeah, that to me is Mercury. I hope that made a lick of sense to somebody out there. Thanks, guys.